The pregnancy test clattered into the sink, two pink lines staring back at Amara like an accusation. Her hands trembled as she gripped the porcelain edge, Seoul's winter morning pressing against the bathroom window. Minho's toothbrush still sat in the holder beside hers, his cologne lingering in the air. But his phone had gone straight to voicemail for 3 days straight. 3 days since he'd kissed her forehead and promised to be back before dinner. 3 days since she'd seen the man who'd sworn they'd build a life together. Amara splashed cold water on her face, the shock doing nothing to erase the reality settling into her bones. 6 months ago, she had been a graduate student from Lagos, navigating Seoul's labyrinthine subway system with a tourism map and broken Korean phrases. Now she was pregnant, alone, and the father of her child had vanished like smoke. Her phone buzzed. Hope surged through her chest, but it was just her roommate Kendra asking if she wanted coffee. Amara typed back a quick no and stared at her reflection. Her dark skin looked ashen in the fluorescent light, her usually bright eyes dulled by sleepless nights. She'd met Minho at a language exchange cafe in Hongdae, where he'd patiently corrected her terrible pronunciation of 감사합니다, while she'd taught him Yoruba greetings he'd never quite mastered. He'd made her laugh that first night, really laugh, in a way she hadn't since leaving home. That first meeting felt like a lifetime ago now. She remembered how nervous she'd been, clutching her Korean textbook like a lifeline, scanning the cafe for someone who looked patient enough to deal with her butchered pronunciation. Minho had been sitting by the window, sketching something in a notebook, his dark hair falling across his forehead. When their eyes met, he'd smiled, warm and genuine, and waved her over. "You must be Amara," he said in careful English. "I'm Minho. Don't worry, my English is probably as bad as your Korean." It wasn't true. His English had been excellent, refined through years of studying abroad and working with international clients at his architecture firm. But the lie had put her at ease, made her feel less like a burden. They talked for 3 hours that night, switching between languages, laughing at misunderstandings, building bridges across cultures with nothing but curiosity and kindness. By their third meeting, Minho had stopped pretending it was just about language exchange. He'd asked her to dinner, a real dinner, at a pojangmatcha, where they sat under plastic tarps and ate tteokbokki while rain drummed overhead. He had told her about his dreams of designing buildings that honored Korean tradition while embracing modern sustainability. She'd told him about her research on African diaspora communities in Asia, about feeling caught between worlds, never quite fitting anywhere completely. "Maybe that's what makes you perfect," Minho had said, reaching across the table to take her hand. "You're not limited by one place. You're expanded by many." She'd fallen for him right then, in that moment, with spicy rice cakes cooling on a paper plate and Seoul's neon lights bleeding through the rain. The doorbell rang, jolting her from the memory. Amara's heart hammered as she rushed to the door, prayers tumbling through her mind. Let it be him. Let him explain. Let this nightmare end. But it wasn't Minho. A tiny Korean woman in her 60s stood in the hallway, her designer handbag clutched to her chest like armor, her expression carved from ice. "You are Amara?" the woman asked in English, each word precise and cold. "Yes. Who are you?" "I am Minho's mother." The woman's gaze swept over Amara with the efficiency of a scanner, cataloging and dismissing in seconds. "We need to talk." Amara's stomach dropped. She stepped aside mechanically, watching as Mrs. Kim entered her small apartment with the bearing of someone inspecting a crime scene. The woman didn't sit, didn't remove her coat. She simply stood in the center of the living room and opened her purse. "My son cannot see you anymore," Mrs. Kim said, pulling out an envelope. "This is compensation, 50 million won. Take it and delete his number." The envelope landed on the coffee table with a soft thud that echoed like thunder in Amara's ears. 50 million won. About 40,000 US dollars. A fortune for a student. An insult to my heart. Where is he? Amara's voice came out steadier than she felt. I need to hear this from Minho. Minho is where he belongs, with his family, preparing for his engagement to a suitable woman. Mrs. Kim's lips pressed into a thin line. He was confused. You were a distraction. This is better for everyone. Engaged. The word tasted like acid. We've been together for 6 months. He said he loved me. Love? Mrs. Kim said the word like it was something distasteful she'd stepped in. My son has responsibilities. A future. You were never part of that plan. Be smart. Take the money. Go home. Amara's hands clenched at her sides. She thought of the pregnancy test in the bathroom, the secret she'd been bursting to share with Minho, the future she'd imagined. Get out, she screamed. Mrs. Kim's expression didn't change. She simply nodded once, left the envelope on the table, and walked to the door. The money will remain available for 1 week. After that, you're on your own. The door closed with a soft click, and Amara sank onto the couch, her legs finally giving out. She stared at the envelope, its crisp white surface seeming to mock her. 6 months of late-night convenience store runs, of Minho teaching her to make kimchi in his tiny kitchen, of stolen kisses on the Han River Bridge, of promises whispered in the dark. All of it was reduced to paper and one. Her phone buzzed again. This time. It was a message from an unknown number. I'm sorry. Please don't try to find me. You deserve better. Minho. The words blurred as tears finally came, hot and angry. Amara threw her phone across the room, watched it bounce off the wall and clatter to the floor. The silence that followed was suffocating. She sat there for a long time, watching dust motes dance in the winter sunlight streaming through the window. Her mind kept replaying moments, searching for signs she'd missed. Had there been warnings? Red flags she'd been too in love to see? She thought about the way Minho had always been vague about his family, changing the subject whenever she asked to meet them. The way he'd tensed whenever his phone rang with calls from home. She'd chalked it up to typical Korean family pressure, the high expectations she knew many of her Korean classmates faced. But maybe it had been more than that. Maybe she'd been willfully blind. Kendra found her there an hour later, still staring at the envelope. Her roommate, a fellow African student from Kenya, took one look at Amara's face and pulled her into a fierce hug. He's gone, Amara whispered against Kendra's shoulder. He promised forever and he's just gone. What happened? Amara told her everything. The missing days, the pregnancy test, Mrs. Kim's visit, the blood money sitting on their coffee table. With each detail, Kendra's expression grew darker. That's it? Kendra pulled back, her eyes flashing. You're just going to let him disappear? Let her buy you off like some kind of transaction? What am I supposed to do? Storm his family's house? He doesn't want me, Kendra. The message was pretty clear. Was it? Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds like Mommy Dearest is pulling strings. Kendra grabbed Amara's phone from where it had fallen and thrust it into her hands. You're pregnant, Amara. He has a right to know. He has a responsibility. His mother said he's engaged. To someone else? That fast? Girl, something doesn't add up. Kendra pointed at the envelope. And this? This is guilt money. People don't pay guilt money unless they're hiding something. Amara wanted to believe her. Wanted to think there was some explanation that would make sense of the chaos. But the message from Minho's number felt final. You deserve better. The words of someone saying goodbye. I can't force someone to love me, Amara said quietly. No, but you can demand answers. You can demand respect. You're not some secret he can just erase, Amara. You're a person. You were in a relationship. You deserve to hear the truth from his mouth, not from his mother's checkbook. Kendra picked up the envelope and waved it. And another thing. If Minho really wanted to break up with you, why would his mother need to come here with money? Why not just have him tell you himself? Why the payoff? Why the theatrics? Amara hadn't thought about it that way. She'd been so devastated by the rejection that she hadn't questioned the method. But Kendra was right. It didn't make sense. Minho had never been a coward. When they'd faced stares on the street, comments from strangers, he'd held her hand tighter, kissed her more openly. When a drunk man had made racist remarks at them on the subway, Minho had stood up to him, risking a confrontation to defend her dignity. That man wouldn't just send a text message and hide. Amara looked at her friend, at the fire in Kendra's eyes, and felt something stir in her chest. Not quite hope, but something close to it. Anger, maybe. Determination. She'd come to Korea to study, to grow, to become more than what her small Lagos neighborhood expected. She'd faced down culture shock, language barriers, and the subtle racism that came with being one of the few black students at her university. She survived all of that. She could survive this, too. "You're right," Amara said, standing up. Her legs felt stronger now. "I need answers, real ones." Kendra grinned. "That's my girl, so what's the plan?" "I know where his office is, the architecture firm in Gangnam. I'll go there tomorrow." "And if he's not there?" "Then I'll keep going until I find him. He doesn't get to just disappear, not like this." That night, Amara barely slept. She rehearsed what she'd say, how she'd stand, what expression she'd wear. She wanted to be strong, dignified, not the hysterical ex-girlfriend making a scene. But she also wanted Minho to see her pain, to understand what his disappearance had cost her. By the time morning came, she'd tried on and discarded 5 different outfits before settling on simple jeans and a long brown sweater. Not trying too hard, just herself. Amara stood outside the sleek glass tower that housed Minho's firm, her heart pounding against her ribs. She'd rehearsed what she'd say 100 times on the subway ride over, but now, staring at the building's imposing facade, all her words scattered like leaves. The lobby was all marble and chrome, filled with people in expensive suits moving with purpose. Amara approached the reception desk, trying to project a confidence she didn't feel. "I'm here to see Kim Minho," she said in Korean, proud that her voice didn't shake. The receptionist, a young woman with perfect makeup, typed something into her computer and frowned. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but it's urgent, personal." "I'm sorry, but Mr. Kim isn't seeing anyone without an appointment. If you'd like, I can take a message." "Please, just call him. Tell him Amara is here. He'll know who I am." The receptionist's expression shifted slightly, a flicker of something. Recognition, maybe, or pity. "One moment." She picked up the phone, spoke in low tones, then hung up and looked at Amara with professional sympathy. "I'm sorry, but Mr. Kim says he's unable to meet with you. He suggests you contact his attorney if you have any concerns." The words hit like a physical blow. Attorney. As if she were a legal problem to be managed, not someone he'd held in his arms and promised a future. "This is ridiculous," Amara said, her voice rising. "I just need 5 minutes. 5 minutes to talk to him face to face." "Ma'am, please, if you continue to cause a disturbance, I'll have to call security." Amara felt eyes turning toward her, the curious stares of office workers wondering what drama was unfolding in their pristine lobby. Shame heated her cheeks, but underneath it, anger burned hotter. She pulled out her phone and dialed Minho's number, watching the elevator banks as it rang. Maybe he'd see her calling. Maybe he'd come down. The call went to voicemail. Minho's voice, warm and familiar, instructed her to leave a message in Korean and English. The beep sounded. "It's me," Amara said, not caring who heard. "I'm in your lobby. I'm pregnant, Minho. I'm pregnant and you disappeared, and your mother tried to pay me off, and I just need you to look me in the eye and tell me you don't care. That's all. Just look at me and say it, and I'll go. I promise." She hung up and waited, counting heartbeats, watching the elevators. 1 minute passed. 2, 5. The receptionist was speaking into her phone again, and Amara saw 2 security guards approaching from the side entrance. "Ma'am, I need to ask you to leave," one of them said, not unkindly. Amara looked at the elevators one last time, willing the doors to open, willing Minho to appear. They stayed closed. He wasn't coming. He'd heard her message, and he wasn't coming. "Fine," she said, turning toward the exit. "I'm leaving." The cold air hit her face as she stepped outside, and the tears she'd been holding back finally spilled over. She walked without direction, letting the crowd swallow her. Just another face in Seoul's endless sea of people. After blocks of aimless wandering, she found herself in a small park, sitting on a bench, staring at pigeons fighting over crumbs. An elderly Korean woman sat down on the other end of the bench, pulling out a bag of seeds for the birds. She glanced at Amara, took in her tears, and said something softly in Korean. Amara didn't catch all of it, but she heard the word for heartbreak and managed a watery smile. "Yes," she said in Korean. "Heartbreak." The woman nodded sympathetically and offered Amara some seeds. They sat in companionable silence, feeding pigeons, 2 strangers connected by the universal language of pain. It was oddly comforting, this small moment of kindness from someone who owed her nothing. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Amara almost didn't answer, but something made her swipe to accept. "Hello? Amara?" The voice was male, young, unfamiliar. "My name is Jay. I'm Minho's younger brother. Please don't hang up." Amara's breath caught. "How did you get this number?" "From Minho's phone. Listen, I don't have much time. Can you meet me? There's a cafe in Itaewon, Cloud 9. Do you know it?" "Why should I trust you?" "Because I know what my mother did. And I know Minho didn't send that message. She did. Please, Minho's in trouble. Real trouble. If you ever cared about him, meet me. 1 hour." The line went dead before Amara could respond. She stared at her phone, Kendra's voice echoing in her head. Something doesn't add up. Maybe it didn't. Maybe there was more to this than a coward who ran from responsibility. The elderly woman was watching her curiously. Amara stood up, bowed slightly in thanks for the shared moment, and headed for the subway. Itaewon wasn't far, but an hour wasn't much time. As the train rocked through tunnels, Amara's mind raced. Could this be a trap? Another attempt by Minho's family to manipulate her? Or was Jay telling the truth? She thought about the Minho she knew, the man who'd spent an entire Saturday helping her move furniture just so she'd be more comfortable. The man who'd learned to cook jollof rice from YouTube videos because he wanted to surprise her with a taste of home. That man wouldn't send a cold text and hide behind lawyers. But people changed. Or maybe she'd never really known him at all. Cloud 9 was a small, hip cafe tucked into a side street in Itaewon, the kind of place where expatriates and Korean hipsters mingled over overpriced lattes. Amara spotted Jay immediately. He looked like a younger, softer version of Minho, without the sharp edges life had carved into his brother. He waved her over to a corner table, away from the window. "Thank you for coming," Jay said as she sat down. "I wasn't sure you would." "You said Minho's in trouble. What kind of trouble?" Jay glanced around nervously, as if worried someone might overhear. Then he leaned forward, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "My mother and father are forcing him to marry Park Soo-jin. Her father owns a major construction company. It's a business merger disguised as a wedding. People still do that? Arranged marriages? In families like mine, yes. Especially when there's money at stake. My father's firm has been struggling. The Parks have capital and connections. This marriage solves everything. Jay's expression was painful. Minho's been fighting them on it for months, but 3 days ago, my father had a heart attack. Mild, but enough to scare everyone. He told Minho that stress was killing him, and the only thing that would help him recover was seeing Minho settled, secure, married to someone appropriate. So Minho just agreed? Just like that? You don't understand my father. He's good at manipulation, really good. And Minho, he's the oldest son. The weight of family duty? It's like a physical thing in our culture. My mother convinced him you'd be better off without him anyway, that he'd just hold you back. Amara absorbed this, trying to reconcile it with the man who'd traced patterns on her skin and talked about introducing her to his favorite places in Busan. If all that's true, why isn't he here telling me this himself? Because they won't let him. My mother took his phone. He's basically under house arrest at the family estate until the engagement ceremony next week. She's monitoring everything, everyone he talks to. I had to sneak his phone out just to get your number. This is insane. We're living in the 21st century, not some historical drama. I know how it sounds. But it's real, Amara. And Minho, he's miserable. He's been asking about you constantly. When I told him what my mother did, that she went to your apartment, he completely lost it. Jay pulled out a folded piece of paper. He wrote you this. I couldn't risk texting in case she checks my phone. Amara unfolded the paper with shaking hands. Minho's handwriting, messy and urgent, covered the page. Amara, I'm so sorry. I never wanted to disappear. I never wanted any of this. My mother says you're better off without me, and maybe she's right, but I can't stop thinking about you, about us. I know I'm a coward for not fighting harder. I know you deserve someone stronger. But if there's any part of you that still cares, please know that I never stopped loving you. Not for a second. I'm trapped, but I'm thinking of you. Always. M. The words blurred as tears welled up. Amara wiped them away angrily. He says he loves me, but he's still going through with the wedding? He doesn't see a way out. The guilt about my father, the family pressure, it's crushing him. Jay hesitated. But maybe there is a way, if you're willing. What do you mean? The engagement ceremony is in 6 days. It's tradition, a formal announcement to both families before the actual wedding. If something were to disrupt it, publicly, it would be nearly impossible for them to move forward. The Parks value their reputation above everything. A scandal would kill the deal. Amara stared at him. You want me to crash his engagement party? I want you to fight for him. He's too buried under family obligation to fight for himself right now. But if he saw you, if you told him about the baby in front of everyone, it might break through. It might give him the strength to choose his own life. How did you know about the baby? She asked. I heard your voicemail on his phone. He replied, I'm sorry, this was stupid. I shouldn't have asked you to do this. It's not fair. And I know it's not fair to ask. But Minho's running out of time. After the engagement, everything moves fast. The wedding will be in a month. Once it's done, it's done. Korean divorce, especially in families like ours. It's almost impossible. Amara thought about the pregnancy test in her bathroom, about the tiny life growing inside her that would never know its father if she stayed silent. She thought about Minho's note, the desperation in every line. She thought about Mrs. Kim's cold eyes and the envelope full of money that was supposed to erase her like a mistake. More than that, she thought about herself, about the woman she wanted to be. Not someone who accepted dismissal quietly, who let powerful people write her out of their lives. She'd spent her whole life fighting to be seen, to be heard, to matter. She wasn't about to stop now. Tell me where and when, she said. Jay's eyes widened. You'll do it? I'll do it, but not for your family or their drama. For me, because I deserve to say my piece, and for this baby, who deserves a father who chose to fight. Relief flooded Jay's face. He pulled out his phone and showed her the details, the address of the hotel, the time the ceremony would begin. I'll make sure your name is on the guest list. Just be careful. My mother, she can be ruthless when she feels threatened. I've noticed. Amara stood, tucking the paper with Minho's note carefully into her bag. Thank you for telling me the truth. Thank you for giving him a chance. Jay stood too. For what it's worth, I think you're exactly who my brother needs. Someone brave enough to fight for what matters. Oh, this is about to get wild. Amara just agreed to crash Minho's engagement ceremony in front of his entire family. Will she actually go through with it? What's going to happen when she shows up? And will Minho finally break free from his family's control? Part 2 is dropping soon, and you do not want to miss what happens at that engagement party. Subscribe and hit that notification bell so you're the first to see how this dramatic showdown goes down. Comment Team Amara if you think she should crash that party, or Team Think Twice if you think it's a bad idea. This is going to be epic. See you in Part 2.